Listen to me carefully. I want you to open your heart, not your mind alone. Because there are truths that the mind debates, but the spirit recognizes instantly. There are things we eat with our mouths that feed the body, and there are things we eat with our choices that feed the spirit. Many people pray, fast, cry, and seek deliverance, yet they continue to consume what quietly destroys their spiritual sensitivity. They wonder why their prayers feel heavy, why their dreams are silent, why their faith feels weak, why their spiritual fire fades without warning. They think the problem is outside them, but the battle is often on their table, in their habits, in their appetites. You see, not every danger comes with noise. Some dangers come wrapped in pleasure. Some dangers come disguised as normal life. Some dangers come dressed as culture, tradition, or comfort. And because they look ordinary, people embrace them without discernment. But I tell you today, there are things that do not only affect your body, they affect your spirit. There are things that do not only shape your health, they shape your destiny. There are things that do not only touch your stomach, they touch your soul. When a man eats without wisdom, he feeds his weakness. When a woman eats without discernment, she strengthens what she should be starving. The spiritual life is not built only by prayer. It is protected by discipline. It is not sustained only by fasting. It is sustained by awareness. The enemy does not always attack with storms. Sometimes he attacks with sweetness. He does not always come with fear. Sometimes he comes with appetite. Look at the world today. People eat everything without questioning anything. They eat information without truth, entertainment without wisdom, relationships without purpose, words without meaning, and food without discernment. They consume what feels good, not what is good. They choose what satisfies their senses, not what strengthens their spirit. And slowly, silently, their spiritual sensitivity dies. They still go to places of worship, still sing songs, still speak religious language, but their inner man is weak. Their conscience is dull. Their discernment is gone. Their connection to the divine feels distant. Hear me. There are three kinds of food that are spiritually dangerous, not because they are evil in themselves, but because of what they represent, how they are consumed, and what they awaken within the human soul. The first is the food of excess. Excess is not only about quantity, it is about control. When food controls you, you are no longer the master, you are the servant. When appetite becomes your ruler, discipline becomes your enemy. When you cannot say no to your desires, you cannot say yes to your destiny. Excess eating is not just physical, it is spiritual laziness. It is the habit of feeding the flesh while starving the spirit. A person who cannot control appetite often struggles to control thoughts, emotions, anger, lust, pride, and fear. Because the same discipline that restrains the mouth also restrains the heart. When you train your body to obey your spirit, you strengthen your inner authority. But when you allow your body to command your spirit, you weaken your spiritual identity. Many people want spiritual power without spiritual discipline. They want victory without restraint. They want revelation without sacrifice. But listen to me, every great spiritual life is built on small acts of self-control. When you eat without limit, you teach your soul that pleasure is more important than purpose. When you always satisfy every craving, you train your heart to reject discomfort. Yet spiritual growth often begins in discomfort. Excess dulls sensitivity. When the body is constantly overloaded, the spirit becomes heavy. When the flesh is always satisfied, the soul becomes sleepy. You try to pray, but your mind is slow. You try to listen, but your heart is distracted. You try to focus, but your spirit feels tired. Not because you are weak, but because you have fed the wrong part of yourself too much. The second is the food of addiction. Addiction is not always about substances. It is about dependence. There are foods that people do not just eat. They rely on them emotionally. They cannot feel calm without them. They cannot feel happy without them. They cannot face stress without them. They cannot feel alive without them. That is not hunger, that is bondage. When food becomes your comfort instead of your faith, your heart shifts its trust. When food becomes your escape instead of your prayer, your spirit loses strength. When food becomes your identity instead of your purpose, your destiny becomes blurred. Addiction teaches the soul a dangerous lesson, that relief comes from consumption, not connection. It tells the heart that peace comes from the mouth, not from within. It tells the mind that satisfaction comes from taste, not from truth. And slowly, the person becomes spiritually disconnected. They seek comfort in what they eat rather than in what they believe. You see, the human spirit was not created to be satisfied by physical things alone. It was created for meaning, purpose, connection, and truth. When you try to fill spiritual emptiness with physical consumption, you create a cycle of frustration. The more you eat, the emptier you feel. The more you consume, the less fulfilled you become. The more you satisfy your cravings, the more cravings multiply. That is why some people eat and still feel restless. They drink and still feel empty. They consume and still feel lost. Because the hunger is not in the stomach, it is in the soul. The third is the food of influence. There are foods that carry not only nutrients but messages. The environment in which you eat, the conversations you absorb, the values you accept, the atmosphere you embrace, all of these are spiritual food. When you constantly feed your mind with negativity, your spirit becomes weak. When you surround yourself with people who mock discipline, your heart learns rebellion. When you normalize everything without discernment, your conscience becomes silent. Not everything that is popular is healthy for the soul. Not everything that is trendy is safe for the spirit. Not everything that tastes good is good for destiny. There are meals eaten in environments where truth is absent, where purpose is mocked, where values are destroyed. And when you repeatedly expose yourself to such environments, you unconsciously digest their spirit. A person may eat physically innocent food, but spiritually toxic atmosphere. They may consume harmless meals, but the harmful conversations. They may share tables with people who ridicule faith, discipline, and purpose. And slowly, their inner conviction erodes. Their spiritual courage fades. Their sense of calling weakens. Not because they intended it, but because they kept eating in the wrong atmosphere. Listen carefully. The danger is not always in the food. Sometimes it is in the meaning behind it. Sometimes it is not what you eat, but why you eat it. Sometimes it is not where you eat, but who you become while eating it. When a person eats to escape pain instead of confronting it, they strengthen fear. When a person eats to silence loneliness instead of seeking connection, they strengthen isolation. When a person eats to fill boredom instead of pursuing purpose, they strengthen emptiness. And every time they do this, they teach their spirit to avoid growth. I am not speaking against food. Food is a gift. Pleasure is not evil. Enjoyment is not wrong. But when pleasure replaces purpose, when appetite replaces discipline, when consumption replaces connection, then food becomes spiritually dangerous. Look at your life honestly. Ask yourself, who is in control? Your spirit or your appetite? Your purpose or your cravings? Your destiny or your desires? Many people pray for change while protecting the habits that prevent change. They cry for transformation while defending the patterns that destroy transformation. They ask for spiritual power while feeding spiritual weakness. You cannot rise spiritually while living without restraint physically. You cannot develop inner authority while surrendering to every impulse. You cannot build a strong spirit while feeding a weak character. There is a mystery here. When you learn to say no to your appetite, you learn to say yes to your purpose. When you discipline your body, you liberate your spirit. When you control your cravings, you clarify your vision. When you reduce excess, you increase sensitivity. When you break unhealthy dependence, you restore inner freedom. Some people think spirituality is only about prayers and words, but spirituality is also about choices, habits, and discipline. It is about what you allow into your life repeatedly. It is about what you normalize. It is about what you tolerate. A person who wants a strong spirit must learn to eat with awareness. Not fear, not obsession, but wisdom. They must learn to ask, is this feeding my purpose or my weakness? Is this strengthening my discipline or my dependency? Is this supporting my destiny or distracting it? When you eat consciously, you live consciously. When you live consciously, you grow spiritually. When you grow spiritually, your life gains direction. And when your life gains direction, your destiny becomes clear. Many people are not attacked by evil forces, they are weakened by careless habits. Many people are not defeated by enemies, they are defeated by indulgence. Many people do not lose their destiny suddenly, they slowly surrender it through small, repeated compromises. Today, I am not telling you to fear food. I am telling you to understand its spiritual impact. I am not telling you to reject pleasure. I am telling you to reject bondage. I am not telling you to stop eating. I am telling you to start discerning. If you want a sharp spirit, cultivate discipline. If you want clarity, reduce excess. If you want inner strength, break unhealthy dependence. If you want spiritual sensitivity, change your habits. If you want transformation, start from what you consume daily. Do not underestimate small choices. A small habit repeated daily becomes a powerful force shaping your future. A small discipline practiced consistently becomes a strong foundation for greatness. A small act of restraint today can open doors of wisdom tomorrow. Listen to me. Your destiny is not destroyed by one big mistake. It is shaped by many small decisions. Your spiritual life is not built by one dramatic moment. It is built by daily discipline. Your inner power is not created by one emotional experience. It is created by consistent self-control. If you want to rise, learn to govern your appetite. If you want to grow, learn to master your cravings. If you want to see clearly, learn to eat wisely, not only with your mouth, but with your mind, your heart, and your environment. Today, make a decision. Do not let food control your spirit. Do not let appetite rule your destiny. Do not let consumption replace purpose. Let your spirit lead your body, not your body lead your spirit. Let discipline guide your choices, not impulses. Let awareness shape your habits, not addiction. When you change what you consume, you change what you become. When you change what you become, you change where you are going. When you change where you are going, your destiny begins to align with your true purpose. And when your spirit is strong, no external force can easily shake you. When your inner man is disciplined, no external temptation can easily defeat you. When your soul is awake, no hidden danger can quietly destroy you. So hear this not as condemnation, but as awakening. Hear this not as fear, but as wisdom. Hear this not as restriction, but as liberation. Because the greatest freedom is not doing everything you want, but mastering what you want. And when you master your appetite, you begin to master your life. Mastering appetite is the first step to mastering destiny, because every human life is guided not only by dreams and prayers, but by invisible forces that operate within the heart, the mind, and the body. Before a person can conquer the world outside, they must first conquer the world within. Before a person can rise above circumstances, they must first rise above impulses. Appetite is not just about food. It is about desire, craving, impulse, and the silent voice that constantly whispers, "I want this now." Many people think destiny is something far away, something written in the stars, something controlled by external forces, but destiny often begins at the level of appetite. What you cannot control within you will eventually control where you go in life. Look at the human story from the beginning. Every major fall started with an uncontrolled desire. Every great rise began with discipline. The difference between those who lead and those who follow is not talent alone, it is mastery. The difference between those who finish strong and those who collapse halfway is not luck, it is restraint. The difference between those who fulfill purpose and those who waste potential is not opportunity, it is appetite. Appetite is powerful because it feels natural. It feels justified. It feels harmless. It speaks with urgency and emotion. It does not ask for permission. It demands satisfaction. It does not consider consequences. It focuses on pleasure. When appetite is not mastered, it becomes a master. When desire is not guided, it becomes a tyrant. When impulse is not disciplined, it becomes destiny itself. Many people do not realize that they are not living according to purpose, but according to appetite. They wake up driven by cravings, decisions shaped by emotions, relationships chosen by attraction, habits built on comfort, and goals defined by instant gratification. They think they are free, but they are being led by invisible chains. They think they are making choices, but their choices are being made by their cravings. A person who cannot control appetite cannot control direction. A person who cannot say no to small desires will struggle to say yes to great responsibilities. A person who cannot delay pleasure will find it difficult to achieve long-term success. Destiny is not built by what you want now. It is built by what you are willing to discipline today. Appetite is subtle. It does not always appear as something extreme. Sometimes it appears as harmless habits, small indulgences, repeated compromises, emotional eating, unnecessary spending, constant entertainment, endless scrolling, uncontrolled speech, impulsive decisions, and addictive comfort. Each of these seems small, but together they shape the character of a person. Character is not formed in dramatic moments. It is formed in daily choices. And daily choices are often guided by appetite. When appetite rules, patience dies. When appetite rules, wisdom becomes weak. When appetite rules, vision becomes blurred. When appetite rules, the future is sacrificed for the present. People who live under the rule of appetite often feel busy but not fulfilled, active but not purposeful, entertained but not satisfied. They move, but they do not progress. They consume, but they do not grow. Mastering appetite does not mean rejecting pleasure. It means redefining priority. It means understanding that not everything you desire deserves your obedience. It means realizing that the body is a servant, not a king. It means teaching the heart that satisfaction is not always immediate. It means training the mind to choose meaning over momentary pleasure. A person who masters appetite begins to experience a strange kind of power. They discover that they are no longer controlled by moods, cravings, or impulses. They realize that they can pause, reflect, and choose wisely. They understand that discipline is not punishment, but protection. They see that restraint is not weakness, but strength. They begin to feel a deeper sense of freedom, not the freedom to do everything, but the freedom to choose wisely. When appetite is mastered, clarity increases. The mind becomes sharper. The heart becomes calmer. The vision becomes clearer. The spirit becomes stronger. The person begins to see beyond immediate pleasure and begins to think about long-term impact. They begin to understand that destiny is not a sudden event, but a gradual construction. Many people pray for transformation, but resist discipline. They ask for success, but avoid structure. They want greatness, but reject sacrifice. They desire change, but protect their habits. They hope for miracles, but ignore principles. Yet destiny respects discipline. Destiny responds to consistency. Destiny aligns with those who understand that greatness is not achieved by desire alone, but by mastery. Appetite is connected to identity. When you cannot control appetite, you begin to lose control over who you are. Your values become negotiable. Your standards become flexible. Your convictions become fragile. Your purpose becomes optional. But when you master appetite, identity becomes firm. You begin to know who you are and what you stand for. You begin to understand that your life is bigger than your cravings. Consider the difference between a person who eats because they are hungry and a person who eats because they are bored, stressed, lonely, or emotional. The first listens to the body, the second is controlled by emotions. The same pattern exists in life. Some people make decisions based on purpose, others make decisions based on feelings. Some people choose relationships based on values, others choose based on attraction. Some people pursue goals based on calling, others pursue based on comfort. Appetite is not always physical, it is emotional, psychological, and spiritual. When emotional appetite is not mastered, people chase validation. They seek approval at any cost. They fear rejection more than they fear losing purpose. They adjust their identity to fit expectations. They compromise their values to maintain acceptance. They lose themselves while trying to please others. Their destiny becomes shaped by opinions, not by vision. When intellectual appetite is not mastered, people consume information without wisdom. They chase trends without understanding. They repeat ideas without reflection. They become influenced instead of influential. Their minds become crowded, but their hearts remain empty. They know many things, but understand little. Their destiny becomes shaped by noise, not by truth. When spiritual appetite is not mastered, people seek experiences instead of transformation. They chase feelings instead of growth. They pursue excitement instead of depth. They want instant spiritual highs without long-term discipline. They move from one moment of inspiration to another without real change. Their destiny becomes emotional, unstable, and inconsistent. Mastering appetite is not an event, it is a journey. It begins with awareness. Awareness that not every desire is harmless. Awareness that not every craving deserves satisfaction. Awareness that not every opportunity deserves acceptance. Awareness that not every pleasure deserves pursuit. Awareness that not every voice inside you speaks truth. When awareness grows, discipline follows. Discipline is the ability to delay gratification for a greater purpose. Discipline is the courage to say no when it would be easier to say yes. Discipline is the strength to choose what is right over what is easy. Discipline is the willingness to endure discomfort for the sake of growth. People often misunderstand discipline. They think it is harsh, rigid, or restrictive. But discipline is not the enemy of joy. It is the guardian of joy. Discipline protects your future from the destruction of your present impulses. Discipline preserves your potential from the erosion of your habits. Discipline shields your destiny from the chaos of uncontrolled desires. A person who masters appetite begins to experience a shift in perspective. They no longer see sacrifice as loss, but as investment. They no longer see restraint as limitation, but as empowerment. They no longer see discipline as burden, but as foundation. They understand that every time they control a craving, they strengthen their future. Every time they resist an impulse, they clarify their path. Every time they choose purpose over pleasure, they align with destiny. Many people want extraordinary results with ordinary discipline. They want exceptional success with average habits. They want high-level impact with low-level commitment. They want destiny without mastery. But destiny does not respond to wishes, it responds to patterns. Patterns are created by habits. Habits are guided by appetite. And appetite must be mastered. Look at the lives of those who achieved greatness in any field. You will find one common trait: control. Control over time, control over energy, control over focus, control over emotions, control over habits. They did not become great because they had fewer desires. They became great because they learned to manage their desires. They did not eliminate appetite, they educated it. When appetite is educated, it becomes a tool rather than a weapon. Desire becomes direction. Passion becomes purpose. Energy becomes productivity. Emotion becomes motivation. Pleasure becomes reward rather than distraction. Appetite stops being a force that drags you down and becomes a force that drives you forward. The tragedy of many lives is not lack of opportunity, but lack of mastery. They had talent, but no discipline. They had vision, but no control. They had potential, but no restraint. They had dreams, but no structure. They had passion, but no direction. And slowly, appetite consumed what destiny was supposed to build. A person who cannot control small appetites will struggle to handle big responsibilities. A person who cannot manage simple habits will find it difficult to sustain complex success. A person who cannot resist minor temptations will collapse under major pressures. Destiny is not given to the strongest, it is entrusted to the most disciplined. Mastering appetite also changes how you relate to failure. When appetite rules, failure leads to more indulgence. People eat more, spend more, escape more, distract more. But when discipline rules, failure leads to reflection. People learn, adjust, refine, and grow. Appetite turns failure into excuse. Mastery turns failure into lesson. There is a deep connection between appetite and freedom. Many people think freedom means doing whatever they want. But true freedom is not the absence of rules, it is the presence of control. A person who cannot control desires is not free, they are driven. A person who cannot delay gratification is not powerful, they are predictable. A person who cannot master impulses is not independent, they are dependent on circumstances. When appetite is mastered, freedom becomes real. You are no longer a prisoner of cravings. You are no longer a slave to moods. You are no longer a victim of impulses. You become a conscious creator of your life. You begin to act instead of react. You begin to choose instead of drift. You begin to build instead of consume. Mastering appetite also affects relationships. Many relationships fail not because of lack of love, but because of lack of discipline. People follow attraction instead of values. They follow emotion instead of wisdom. They follow impulse instead of commitment. They seek pleasure instead of connection. Appetite leads to temporary excitement. Mastery leads to lasting bonds. When appetite is mastered, relationships become deeper. Choices become intentional. Commitments become strong. Loyalty becomes natural. Respect becomes consistent. Love becomes stable rather than emotional. Destiny in relationships is not built on chemistry alone, but on character, and character is shaped by discipline. The same principle applies to money, career, health, knowledge, and spirituality. Appetite wants immediate reward. Mastery seeks long-term growth. Appetite spends impulsively. Mastery invests wisely. Appetite avoids effort. Mastery embraces effort. Appetite seeks shortcuts. Mastery builds systems. Appetite wants results now. Mastery understands timing. A person who masters appetite begins to think differently about time. They understand that every moment is either invested or wasted. They understand that every choice either strengthens or weakens the future. They understand that every habit either builds or destroys destiny. They begin to see life not as a series of pleasures, but as a journey of purpose. Mastering appetite is not easy because appetite is emotional. It argues with logic. It negotiates with conscience. It justifies itself with excuses. It says, just this once. It says, you deserve it. It says, everyone does it. It says, it's not a big deal. But destiny is not destroyed by big deals. It is destroyed by repeated small deals. Every time you say yes to unnecessary appetite, you say no to something greater. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you delay progress. Every time you follow impulse over insight, you weaken direction. Every time you satisfy craving without reflection, you strengthen weakness. Yet there is hope. Appetite can be retrained. Desire can be redirected. Habits can be rebuilt. Discipline can be learned. Mastery is not reserved for a few. It is available to anyone willing to practice awareness and restraint. No one is born disciplined. Discipline is developed. When you begin to master appetite, you will notice resistance from within and from outside. Your own mind will resist change. Your environment will question your discipline. People around you may misunderstand your choices. They may call you extreme, rigid, or unrealistic. But destiny often requires separation from normal habits. Greatness often begins where normality ends. Mastering appetite does not make life boring. It makes life meaningful. It does not reduce joy, it refines joy. It does not eliminate pleasure. It places pleasure in its rightful place. It does not suppress desire. It organizes desire. It does not kill passion. It channels passion. When appetite is mastered, you begin to experience a different kind of satisfaction. Not the satisfaction of consumption, but the satisfaction of progress. Not the satisfaction of indulgence, but the satisfaction of growth. Not the satisfaction of momentary pleasure, but the satisfaction of long-term achievement. You begin to realize that destiny is not something mystical, it is something practical. It is built through daily discipline, conscious choices, and intentional habits. It is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not by what you occasionally dream. It is determined by what you consistently feed, not by what you occasionally desire. A person who masters appetite begins to attract opportunities because their life becomes organized. They begin to inspire others because their life becomes disciplined. They begin to influence environments because their inner world becomes stable. They begin to lead because they have first learned to lead themselves. Self-leadership is the foundation of destiny, and self-leadership begins with appetite control. If you cannot lead your cravings, you cannot lead people. If you cannot manage your impulses, you cannot manage responsibilities. If you cannot govern your desires, you cannot govern outcomes. Mastering appetite also deepens inner peace. Many people are restless because their desires are endless. They always want more, faster, bigger, easier. They are never satisfied because appetite always expands. But when appetite is mastered, contentment emerges. You begin to appreciate what you have. You begin to enjoy simplicity. You begin to find meaning beyond consumption. This does not mean ambition dies. On the contrary, ambition becomes purer. Goals become clearer. Motivation becomes deeper. Instead of chasing everything, you pursue what matters. Instead of wanting everything, you choose what aligns with purpose. Instead of reacting to every opportunity, you discern which opportunities deserve your energy. Mastering appetite is a silent revolution. It does not always show on the outside, but it transforms everything on the inside. It changes how you think, how you feel, how you decide, how you act, and how you dream. It shifts your life from chaos to clarity, from impulse to intention, from reaction to direction. Every great destiny begins with a simple but difficult decision to no longer be controlled by appetite. That decision is not dramatic, it is quiet. It is made in ordinary moments, in private choices, in unseen struggles. It is made when no one is watching, when excuses are available, when indulgence is easy. When you choose mastery over appetite in those moments, you plant seeds of greatness. Those seeds may not grow immediately, but they grow steadily. Over time, they become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. A person who masters appetite does not become perfect, they become conscious. They still feel desire, but they are not enslaved by it. They still experience temptation, but they are not defined by it. They still enjoy pleasure, but they are not ruled by it. In the end, destiny is not about what you achieve outside, it is about who you become inside. And who you become inside is determined by what you allow to control you. If appetite controls you, destiny will be fragile. If discipline controls you, destiny will be strong. If impulses guide you, destiny will be unstable. If mastery guides you, destiny will be solid. Mastering appetite is not a one-time victory, it is a daily practice. Every day presents new cravings, new distractions, new temptations, new shortcuts. And every day presents new opportunities to choose discipline over desire, purpose over pleasure, growth over comfort. Each time you choose mastery, you move one step closer to your true destiny. Each time you resist unnecessary appetite, you strengthen your inner authority. Each time you delay gratification, you expand your future possibilities. Each time you choose meaning over momentary pleasure, you align with your highest potential. Destiny is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is being shaped by what you do with your appetite today.